Vacation this week, but he is there, right, Tom?
Yes, I'm here.
Good, thank you. Are there any comments on the agenda? Hearing none, it is approved. Is there any public comment at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to air service update. Mr. Rafter, and Mr. Carberg's here too if you want some help from him.
Okay. As you probably know, I'm sure you're aware, Island Airlines ceased operations last Friday, and we just learned this afternoon that they filed for Chapter 7 yesterday. We're working with the attorneys to do everything that's necessary and appropriate on the legal side of things, but more importantly, we're also working closely with all the involved parties to restore as much service as possible, with passenger and freight, with freight right now being the primary concern. Cape Air has stepped up to the plate with additional passenger service, and NOAA met with them today to review some various solutions to the freight. We're hoping that they'll have something in place by December 30th to begin some freight service, so that's good news.
Is there any freight going back and forth at all now?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Noah. I'm not sure if the small package is going or not.
No. He's shaking his head.
Yeah, and I think the issue with that was logistics. The facilities are there, the airplanes are there, but it's a matter of the logistics of handling the inventory, training the people, and those types of things, which they're working on.
Okay.
It's unfortunate for the passengers, the commuter books, and for the employees, but again, we're working to try to do whatever we can to get it back. In that regard, tonight we have before the commission a lease with Retrix Aviation, who would like to begin service to Hyannis using 3 King Air 200s. In addition, there's a second company that has had some conversations with Bill McGrath that is interested in possibly entering the market as well. So we're trying to do our best to get as much as possible reinstated. But that's just about all I could say right now. As I said, they just filed yesterday, so that kind of ties up or has an impact on some of the facilities and things like that.
What is the impact on for example, the ticket counters and the freight hangar?
I don't know specifically. I need to get back with Suzanne from Dave Mackey's office. My understanding was that there may be 2 different cure periods, one involving bankruptcy and the other is just a general default. So now that they have filed bankruptcy, it may put things in a different time frame, and so I have to go over with her and see what that is.
Okay. I suppose the question is whether those leases have any value from there.
I don't think so, because they're essentially month-to-month leases. They renew monthly.
Okay. But all of them? Yeah, the freight hangar is, and the ticket counters too?
I believe so, yeah.
I don't think the freight counter,
I'm sorry, the freight
building is now.
longer term.
longer term.
And how are they? Are they paid out? Do they pay monthly, or how are we financially with that, or do you want to discuss that?
As far as we know, they're not current.
Okay, thank you.
We're not current with the airport, and as far as we know, they're not current with Mr. McGrath.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McGrath is current with us on the freight hangars, my understanding.
Mr. Bradlaugh?
The Mr. McGrath rent is the primary lessee of the freight hangar, and he
Right.
is paying his rent to us. He is apparently not receiving rent from his tenant.
Thank you.
Are there any questions at this point for Mr. Rafter? All right, we'll move into the pending leases and contracts, and the first one is the lease and agreement with Retrix Aerodrome.
And I don't believe they have signed this yet, but I would ask the commission to consider approving this subject to no substantial changes to the lease.
There's a gentleman here from Retrix who'd like to speak. Would you identify yourself, sir, please?
Kevin Bradley, VP of Operations with Retrix.
You can adjust that mic a little bit.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So Retrix is a Massachusetts-based company. Our headquarters is in Concord at the Hanscom Airport. We have 5 facilities throughout the Commonwealth, as well as Sarasota, Florida. Currently, we operate a 135 operation with 2 Challenger 300 aircraft and 5 Lear 45s. Having base in Hyannis, which was our first FBO location, and an establishment in Nantucket, we're very drawn to both communities, and we want to assist in any way possible. When the discussion was had back with Tom Cunningham regarding the operation of Island Air, it was decided that we would do whatever we could to assist both the island of Nantucket and the community of Cape Cod. Before you is our initial proposal. We're looking at operating 3 Beechcraft King Air 200, 300, or de Havilland Twin Otter airplanes. We'll fly these under our Part 135 certificate. So we are talking to the FAA currently out of Burlington, Massachusetts, to get commuter approval to fly under our 135. They've already given us a preliminary green light. Now it's a matter of paperwork, training, the resources, acquiring the aircraft, and of course to get your approval. We recognize that we are a guest at your airport, and we want to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to assist the airport to the best of our abilities. With that, I spoke to Mr. Rafter last week. We discussed opportunities for leases, different locations throughout the terminal building. We currently have a lease through JetBlue for the second portion of office and back area. We are very interested in an option for Island Air's current space and wanted to discuss that tonight. We were provided by May a draft lease, which we need to change the entity name. Currently, the agreements are with Retrix Aerodrome Centers, which is the company that provides the ground handling. That needs to be amended to Retrix Aviation Incorporated, which would be the ones operating the aircraft. And of course, as our discussion last week with Mr. Rafter, what incentives are available for an operation like this? We anticipate this Part 135 commuter charter to be the initial phase of a multi-tiered operation where we would serve other airports, including White Plains, Teterboro, possibly LaGuardia, if slots are available. Providence was brought up last week and again this evening, so we look at that. We're also in the process of getting a DOT Part 380, which is a public charter, but we are able to sell seats. So with that, we're looking to grow the operation into the Canadair regional jet, and ultimately we're looking at the 737 MAX as an operating platform for the growth of the company. And that's the direction in which we're heading. The company is 100% privately held. It's financially rock solid. Our financier, his name is Dr. Thomas Russell. He's committed a certain amount of money into the operation, and he, along with Richard Cawley, who's our CEO, have not taken 1 cent out of the operation in the last 10 years. They've reinvested all of the proceeds back into the growth and development. I can personally attest, I was employee number 2. We now have, with the Nantucket seasonal operation, about 225 employees. We forecast that to triple in size in the next 5 years between the FBOs, which do the ground handling, the aviation, which does the flight operations, Air Flight, which is our Part 145 repair station, and then our Part 380 and future airline operations. We're looking to be around 1,000 employees by 2020.
And you have been, your experience in Nantucket has been running charter service here for a number of years, I believe.
Correct.
And also this past summer doing the ground handling for JetBlue.
That's right.
Are there any questions, Mr. Bradley?
Just one. So in terms of, will you be providing scheduled service?
Yes,
And
we'll.
what are you sort of envisioning? I mean, I know that the lease, but that's
We're looking to mirror the Island Air
you are.
operation.
Mm-hmm.
So we forecast flights to operate to begin around 6 a.m., fly until about 7 p.m. on an hourly basis, fill sections as they did in the past, which I think is one of the opportunities that we see on the island. We recognize that the ability and the growth of the boat is certainly an issue, and we're here to assist the airport to try to bring the enplanements back to where they are, to provide a better service competitive pricing. We will offer commuter books, but we're going to do it a little bit differently, where it's not going to be a cash upfront payment. So instead, what we'll do is offer a discounted rate for contractors or commuters, whoever they may be, but their cards or their form of payment won't be charged until they actually fly, so that there isn't that concern with what recently occurred here. So we're looking at creative ways. The company tends to think outside of the box, and we're trying to find niches where we can see areas to grow and develop, and to assist the people that are utilizing the airport, both on Nantucket and in Hyannis and beyond. And we're open, you all know the market the best. We're open to whatever suggestions you may have that we can incorporate into the operation to make it successful for both parties.
How long do you think it will take to get 135 approval from the FAA, get your training up, get the aircraft? Because you still haven't purchased the intended aircraft for this service yet. So you think sounds like months away before we're going to get service?
It'll be a few months. We do already currently have aircraft that we could incorporate with the FAA's approval. So we have the Lear 45s, and we thought about basing one in Hyannis and shuttling that back and forth. So that's still an option to utilize the existing assets in our inventory. But we do have a group of individuals that are out there currently sourcing the planes. About every hour I see another update for another aircraft. Most recent one came from Europe, which is a King Air 200 with 9-passenger commuter configuration where all seats face forward. Most of our aircraft are club seating where you have forward-facing and aft-facing seats, which some folks don't like because you fly backwards, which is an odd feeling at times. So we're looking for everything to be forward-facing if possible. And it's a bit of a challenge to find the right aircraft, but we have the folks, we have the resources, most importantly, we have the capital to be able to do something very quickly. We already have an operational staff in place. A gentleman named Brian Sansevieri is our director of operations for the 135 for the Retrix Aviation side of the house. Howard Smith is our chief pilot. Mike Lavershu is our director of maintenance. We have our own maintenance company it's a Part 145 repair station, which is held to a higher standard than most of the operations that you see in the area, between drug training or drug testing, employee training, all the different requirements and inspections of the FAA. We're looking to provide the best and the safest operation possible to the communities of Nantucket and Cape Cod.
So this is contemplates 2 pilots and running 2 engines on King Airs.
Correct.
It seems to me that the expense of that operation will be considerably above a single engine operator with a single pilot. So obviously the ticket prices would be a little higher. Would have to be a little higher.
We are looking at a premium service. So we're looking to bring it's going to be upscale. So everybody will be, all the ladies and gentlemen will be wearing shirts and ties or blouses and slacks. It will be a first-class operation. But I don't want to associate first class and premium with necessarily higher ticket price. We haven't determined that quite yet. Part of the benefit to the King Air 200 is it's an entry level. It's an entry into our fleet. So because we have Lear 45s, because we have Challenger 300s, we're looking at the Global Express, the Canadair Regional Jet, and ultimately the 737. This will be a career progression, a stepping stone, a platform for pilots to grow their career. So we can incorporate a training cost into the operation of those aircraft. So we can disperse some of the operating costs across different budgetary classifications within the organization. We also own our fuel. That is the key. We own our fuel in Hyannis. We can, by the FAA's approval, fuel our owned or managed aircraft. So the differential, the cost differential that Island Air was seeing in Hyannis is not something that we would recognize in Hyannis. So that's a huge variable cost that we can control. We have our own staff. We have our own employees. We can cross-utilize people with the JetBlue operation in both communities on Nantucket and in Hyannis. We can use people, use resources in both instances. So we're able to find a lot of efficiencies by having operations in both. It was everything just aligned, and it pointed to that aircraft. It pointed to this operation, and it pointed to being able to assist in the best manner that we can. So we truly feel that we can do this efficiently and effectively.
Is it your plan to operate out of the terminal in Hyannis or out of your FBO?
We are looking at the terminal. I spoke with Katie Service last week. We have a follow-up meeting on the 30th with Bud, who's been out, Bud Brialt. So we toured the terminal. We already have a space, a presence in the terminal building through the JetBlue operation on the opposite side of where Island Air is. But we're looking to do the same thing as in Nantucket, is hopefully have the option to take over the Island Air lease and essentially be turnkey. We've already begun, as recent as last Tuesday, we started interviewing previous Island Air employees. So we want to try to retain as many folks as we can. It certainly is a business opportunity, but we want to be able to give back, and we want to be able to take the folks who unfortunately lost their jobs and try to employ them. We spoke to a gentleman named Casey Hamilton last week. I met with him, and then right after that, a woman named Gigi from the freight counter over at Island Air. Fantastic person. Unfortunately, I had to leave, but Phil Gerasi picked up on it, and I believe that we're around 22 or 23 people that we've already interviewed and preliminary have brought on board, given the approval to run this service. So that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to retain, we're looking to pick up the pieces, the crumbs left behind from Island Air, and try to put everything back together again.
You mentioned safety. What is your safety record?
It's premier, top notch. We're audited by a company called Argus. We are an Argus Platinum operator, so it's the highest level of auditing and review. We've never had an infraction. We never will have an infraction. All of our pilots undergo the required training. We send them to flight safety or CAE, so they go through recurrent training. We have our own check airmen within the organization. All of our fleet are regularly inspected based on the interval. If there's an issue, if there's a question, and I can personally attest to this because I've seen this multiple times, we ground that airplane. Most recently, it was a Challenger trip, an owner trip, and there was an annunciator light that came on. It could have been cleared, but the owner decided ground the aircraft, and it was the right move. That's how we operate. If there's ever a question regarding safety, that's it. Everything stops. 100% stops. We'd rather take the revenue hit and make sure that people are safe than have any kind of unfortunate incident occur. And that's part of the reason why we have a perfect safety record.
Thank you.
And we see safety, as I mentioned earlier, as an investment and not an expense.
There's a two-pilot operation with the King Air.
Correct.
Okay.
Two pilot.
One other.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with our voluntary noise abatement routes and our incentive program, rebate that goes along with following those routes?
I am. I was actually the environmental terminal coordinator for the airport back in 2000 when those were initially established. So I am familiar with the mile offshore around out by Nantucket and over Third Point. I don't know about any incentives that are available, but we would be very.
And I assume you'd be committed to working with the airport to follow those routes.
Oh, absolutely, without question.
Thanks.
Yep.
Well, there is an incentive in place, and you and Mr. Carberg can discuss that
Okay.
offline, but
It's beneficial.
it is
Okay.
beneficial. And anything else?
No more questions?
And
Yes, Tom.
can I ask Kevin another question? Can I just verify that they are going to be interested in flying freight as well?
We are looking into that. We actually, the name of the system escapes my mind. I think it's called Axiom or Axis, or there's a freight program that we're investigating that both Nantucket, the Vineyard, and New Bedford all use to incorporate. I believe it was a request by the TSA. So we're looking into that system. We have had the initial discussions with previous folks at Island Air, and we are strongly evaluating that. We've been approached by FedEx on a number of bases to assist with that. And right now, our certificate doesn't allow for it, but we believe that with the commuter service, the FAA will approve freight as well. So that is something that we're very interested in.
Anything else? Any other comments, Tom?
No, I thank Kevin for coming in and explaining things and presenting to the commission.
All right. You may have a seat if you'd like for a moment. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? If not, I would accept a motion whether to accept this proposed lease with Retrix Aviation Incorporated. Is the address right, the 730 Barnstable Road, or should it be? Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Hang on just a
Oh, so
second.
sorry.
Are you otherwise prepared to accept this lease as submitted, or are you still reviewing it?
I would like to review it once we have the finalized entity, and also the question was brought up about what incentives are available for an operation like this, given the future, the growth, the scalability.
Okay.
And is this space for the JetBlue space that's
No,
not
this
used
is
now? or
for
is
the
this
old
other-
island shuttle space, which is between Island Air and Cape Air.
Oh, okay, okay.
There's one counter in there.
Right.
Which is the same office you use for ground.
For JetBlue, right?
Okay.
So what our interest is in discussing with Mr. Rafter was to initially operate out of the JetBlue space until the Island Air Corporation is dissolved, which it sounds like yesterday that they filed Chapter 7. So we believe that would be termination of their lease. We would request the option for that area because it is ideal for the operation and the service that we're looking to perform. And to go from there forward. We've discussed, some movement of counter space, and that's probably off topic, more aligned to the JetBlue operation. But we're looking to see what incentives and what the opportunities are that the airport would provide to our company to enter into this marketplace.
Okay.
So maybe this is premature?
I think this is premature at this point. And I don't think we can make a decision on the option tonight anyway, because it was not a posted item on our agenda. We will, at least our next scheduled meeting is February 12th.
January.
I'm sorry, January 12th. And I think it's our form of lease. So any thing that is going to be changed, the sooner we could know about that, the better. I think, as I say, if you sit down with Mr. Carberg and Mr. Rafter, they'll discuss the incentive that's available. At this point, we haven't. There's one essentially relating to landing fee, some abatement of landing fees for following the noise abatement rules. At this point, there aren't any others. We have discussed them informally, but have nothing special. I mean, nothing set in stone yet.
Okay.
Obviously, from the airport's perspective, we've suffered a big hit, and until we're reasonably certain of what is coming down the road, we want to be judicious in providing incentives.
And we completely understand. We saw a draft matrix of some incentive items, and it wasn't differentiated what classification we would fall under. There was a new entrant component in that had a 50% lease reduction, and then the waive landing fees for the first 2 years. So I think that was more of the question is that the component that we fall under, given the dissolution of Island Airlines?
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good. And for the record, if you'd like it tonight, the entity would be Retrix Aviation Incorporated, 777 Virginia Road. And that's in Concord, Massachusetts. Zero 01742.
01742. All right. Tom, Mr. Rafter, there is a piece in here in the packet about incentive programs. Is this something we need to discuss tonight?
I wanted to mention to the commission that I will have for the January 12th meeting a revised or updated incentive program that would hopefully address the reinstatement of some service to Hyannis, as well as we're going to look at possibly another piece that would help instill some confidence in the passengers because of the hit they took, if you will, with the coupons and things. So we have some thoughts and ideas, but we just have to finalize those and do some quick analysis on it.
Okay. Mr. Bradley, where do you stand in your discussions with Barnstable County Airport?
We are meeting with Bud and his staff on the 30th, I believe it's next Wednesday.
Right.
So unfortunately, he was out with recovering from an operation. I did meet with Katie Service, and as recently as yesterday, she inquired as to our status and our direction So they're very eager to move this forward as well.
But you don't have a date to meet with their airport commission yet?
We actually met with their airport commission and provided our initial interest last Tuesday.
Oh, you did? Okay.
We did.
I assume you were well received?
It was.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
we certainly, I don't want to get too excited yet, but we certainly do appreciate Retric's interest and interest in getting something done as soon as practicable. And thank you to your colleagues for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Opportunity.
Merry
Thank you.
I
Christmas.
assume I speak for all my fellow commissioners in that regard.
You do.
Thank you. All right, so we are not at this point taking any action on the Retrix lease. We have a contract with Country Club Enterprises for 2 8-passenger golf carts with trade-in of 2007 golf carts. Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye as well. The lease amendment with Weisenthal, we finally have that. It is here in the package, and it's really an MOU relating to the floods situation, and we are taking a hit of about $66,000 over 40 months. Because of their dislocation by the FUD situation. Are there any questions?
None.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on, the next item are the warrant, well, we've talked about the airline incentive. You don't have anything more on that, do you, Mr. Rafter, at this point?
Yeah, as I said, we'll have something at the next meeting for you.
Okay. And then the warrant articles. Do you want to?
I just want to make the commission aware of some of the warrant articles we're working on. The one for employee housing, there's one for retained earnings that will include employee housing, the fire truck repairs. The engine was blown on that. We don't have exact pricing, but it's probably in the neighborhood of $50,000, as well as the GA building settlement. So we're going to have the use of retained earnings. That'll be one article. The other is a long-term lease authorization for Sun Island Road, so that we can get the RFP out on that for some long-term leases.
Any questions or comments?
No.
All right, thank you. The gift shop lease. We have received a request from the operator of the gift shop to abate the rent of the gift shop for 3 months, January, February, and March. In discussing it with Mr. Rafter and Mr. Gasparo at our regular pre-commission meeting this morning, we felt that giving the gift shop an abatement would potentially present us with other requests, and we felt it was not appropriate, and I asked Ms. Torres to talk with the gift shop operator to suggest that she take advantage of the provision in her lease, which enables her to, in the poor months of the year, shift the rent to more productive months. So I suggested her monthly rent is $2,600. I suggested $1,000 a month now, with the rest to come. And she has to be current at the end of a 12-month period. The response I got from Ms. Torres was that he spoke with her and noted that I was going to suggest to the commission a $1,000. Well, this isn't quite right. Reduction in rent, but she,
delay, really.
yeah, it was a delay. She simply stated she cannot pay both payroll and rent and would most likely close. I suggested she attend to plead her case to the entire commission. She said she could not attend tonight. I offered to suggest to the commission the topic be tabled until January 12th in the hopes that she could attend that meeting. Her response was the commission should have all the information it needs based on employment numbers in order to make a decision.
Well, we have, the situation is that it sounds to me like the shop isn't terribly well managed. I think people have operated there successfully before under the same conditions. And although airport traffic's down a little bit, if one person asks for an abatement in their contracts, then what's wrong with the restaurant doing the same thing, the gas station, and everybody else? So it's hard to do a one-off abatement like that without encouraging others to come to our door and saying, let's do the same thing during the winter, whether it makes sense or not. I kind of think that we ought to just offer what Dan has suggested, and then that's it.
Any other comments?
I agree with Mr. Viscari.
I feel the same way.
I mean, I really feel sorry for anybody at this time of the year, but we do have a financial obligation to the town.
If I may, should we still table it till the 12th, even though that was her response, and maybe make a more formalized offer in terms of suggesting, and maybe the commissioners aren't aware of this, but that, her, as you had said, her lease has a specific provision that allows for the shifting of the rent. And maybe we should highlight that and send it and try to encourage it one more time and tell her we'll talk about it and decide then, in an effort to really, I want to see her stay, consider her a valuable tenant. I think we all consider that, but at the same time, it was those bids done for that, and I really share the concern.
We need to formalize this too.
Say again, Tom?
I agree with Arthur. I think we definitely need to formalize this and maybe give them a chance to think about it.
And our next meeting's only a couple weeks away, and the holidays and whatnot.
And she was just approached with this or reminded of this factor this morning, or today.
Yeah.
So it really, probably hasn't had time to digest it and think about it.
There could be other ways of approaching it too, possibly,
Yes, yeah.
that we could explore, or Tom could.
Well, and she may not have even been aware of the Rectrix situation as well, too. So.
Well, nothing's going to happen there probably until May.
Right, but at least there's something on the horizon.
Best case is 2 to 3 months.
Right.
But if she's got the lower rent, then has to make it up again. It's
right. Except that she just came through the summer, and did not have enough money to carry her through the winter. Sounds to me like either a poor planning or it's not a viable
Well, I think
business.
we better be very careful about what we
it's difficult. And
the
seasonality is
attributes
difficult.
we ascribe to anybody, and but we have the request in front of us, and I think we have to take it at face value. And I concur that we'd like to see her stay. So I think we should table it until the next meeting and approach her and see if we can figure out some way to make it work.
Agree.
I agree.
All right. Commissioners' comments.
Just one.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make note that the grounds are looking really nice around the airport, and everything's cleaned up really well, and leaves and trimmed back, fall cleanup. Just a nod of appreciation and notice to the maintenance. Tom, I think they're doing a great job.
Yes, they are. Thank you.
And I saw somebody yesterday, and I have the same comment. They reminded me. I went to go pick up my packet the other evening in the dark, and I started to go in the outweigh going to the FBO or the general administration. This person said they would like a better light for the turn, a light on the street on Macy's Lane, because they also it's dark right now this time of year, and they missed it. So I don't know if that's something we can do.
You mean instead of turning into the regular entrance, you almost went into the next one?
Yes, because it was dark, and I thought it was poorly lit. And then when I saw them, I said, oh, yeah, that's right.
I had the same problem, actually. Now that you mention it, it's very, yeah.
It's true at every interstate, almost every interstate access ramp in North Carolina. Similar problem.
That's the only comment I have.
All right, thank you. We don't usually have this meeting so close to the holidays, and I think it's appropriate to, on my own behalf, and I hope on behalf of the rest of the commission, just to extend our greetings and thanks to the airport staff, everybody, and the extended airport family, those people who also work there, because I think we've had a good year, and notwithstanding the most recent bump in the road, it's been a good year, and things have worked well. So thank you to everybody, and season's greetings.
Concur.
Merry Christmas
Yes.
to everybody.
Thank
I'll
you.
second that.
Anything else? May I have a motion to go into executive session under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Clause 3, to discuss strategy with respect to threat and litigation with respect to the completion of the GA building. The chair has determined that an open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the Airport Commission, not to return to public session.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do we have to take a roll call? Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Casparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mr.
Merry
Bradley.
Christmas.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Bradley.
Look forward to working with you.